date to January 1, 2022. So this would put Senate Bill 432 in the same posture if you concur.
Move to concur. Anybody object? Done.
Okay. Senate Bill 448, County Boards of Education, Student Transportation, Vehicles and Report. The House amendments conform the Senate bill to the House as amended. The Senate concurred with the House bill as amended last Friday. Sorry, that authorizes the County Board of Ed to provide transportation to and from school.
So what is in front of us?
So is the Senate bill. We concurred with House amendment. We agreed to recede.
Right. So we concur with their amendments and have it match the House bill, which we voted on last week. Any
Correct.
objection? Seeing none, completed. Next.
Senate Bill 749, Charles County Board of Education, membership alterations. It makes a very tiny technical change to make the Senate and House bills identical.
Any objection? Seeing none, done.
And last one, I have no idea what you want to do with this. This is Senate Bill 104, Public and Non-Public Schools, Electric Retractable Room Partitions, Operation Requirements. If you recall, the House amendments strike the bill and substitute a requirement for the department to conduct a review and evaluation and authorize the adoption of guidelines or amendments to ensure safe operation of electric retractable room partitions. This committee essentially struck those amendments and put it back in the same posture as the Senate bill was passed. So the House wants their amendments, the Senate wants theirs.
We're not going to agree. I mean, just so you understand, they're not going to move the bills we sent it over. So my guess is either there's nothing or their amendments. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, to be honest with you. Obviously, I've not been a big fan of it, but they're not going to recede. They're not going to collapse. They're not going to be an accordion. Senator Simonere, what's your pleasure?
Check with the sponsor and we come back to it next voting session.
Actually, he sent a letter. We already know what his posture was, is to put it back the way that the Senate bill was.
Right, I understand that.
They are not going to pass it. I'm not enamored with theirs either. I think we should bury it, basically. Close the door on it, as it were.
Give me 10 minutes if we can come back to it.
Okay.
That's my last concurrence.
Alexis, you've got some concurrences or not concur?
I do. I only have one. So motion to concur and not to concur is on SB 500, which is the Psychology Interjurisdictional Compact. And last week we voted and accepted the House's version, which adopted the bill as an emergency bill. So this motion is now to conform the Senate version to the House version to accept the bill as an emergency provision.
Okay, this would conform the Senate bill to the House bill we acted on last week. Any objection? Seeing none, done. Thank you. April, do you have any concurrences? Okay, before we get into new bills or holdover bills, we set up 3 or 4 conference committees last week. Senator Hester, you're chair of one. Senator Simonere, you're chair of one, and I may be chair of one, I'm not sure. If you need help in terms of how to handle it, go to the appropriate council. As I shared with one of the members, sometimes it's one issue, sometimes it's multiple issues, and it's a compromise and a give and a take. You can set up a meeting, get your conferees together, talk with your counterpart, who's ever the chair in the House. Sometimes it's a one issue, and it's not wrong to call your counterpart and find out where they are. And if there's a simple compromise that you think will sell to your conference committee, you can prepare amendments for just that. It is not always required that a conference meets. It can, and sometimes is very helpful. Sometimes it's a simple change or a simple technical correction that the council can just prepare the amendment and then sign off on it. Okay, let's start to look at these lists. Let's go to 1245 on the back of 43. Yes.
Senator Bailey said the study's better than nothing, so he'd go with them if that's all we're going to get.
We may come back to it.
Okay.
House Bill 1245, Guaranteed Access Grant and Next Generation Scholars of Maryland, Alterations. This bill alters the eligibility criteria for students to pre-qualify for the Guaranteed Access Grant so that a student in grade 9 who is eligible for free and reduced price meals as specified automatically pre-qualifies for the award if the student meets other existing eligibility requirements. Only a student in grade 7 or 8 may currently pre-qualify for the Guaranteed Access Award. The bill reduces the mandated appropriation for the Next Generation Scholars of Maryland program to $2.5 million in fiscal 2023 and makes the $2.5 million appropriation permanent beginning in fiscal 2024. The existing reporting requirement is also expanded and made permanent and annual. There was a letter of information in there about using the free and reduced price meals standard as an automatic pre-qualification due to the community eligibility program that some counties participate in, and it could make more students eligible for the award than I think intended. So you may want to consider that.
What is the option?
Let me grab the bill here.
Or an alternative?
I think the intent here is to allow low-income students to be eligible, and so you could put in an eligibility standard versus free and reduced priced meals, like 130% of the poverty level or 180% of the federal poverty level. Those would be clearer, and then the students who get free meals because they're part of the CEP would not be captured, and they would not get the eligibility.
So the current language is broader,
Correct.
and appropriations has agreed to the $2.5 million.
We were told, well, B&T has a second on this, so we never ran it by B&T, so they would see it.
Well, it's going to go up to B&T.
Right, yes.
So changing the eligibility, does that mean?
Well, just the number of students that would pre-qualify for the grant. That's what this would do. So it doesn't change the appropriation. It just says, for example, some counties, because a certain number of students meets a threshold, every student in the county gets a free and reduced price meal or a free meal. So that's the community eligibility program. And so because they are eligible for that under this CEP, they would also now be pre-qualified under this grant, and that would broaden the category of students I think they're trying to capture in this particular bill. So you could use the federal poverty or standard versus using this as a shorthand.
Right. But again, they still have to gain entrance to the college unless it's an open enrollment.
Right, they have to meet the other qualifications, but again, this is pre-eligibility, pre-qualification.
And who raised that? Montgomery County and Catholic Conference, I don't think raised it, or did they? Who raised it?
Let me see here. I believe it is, I thought it was, where did I find that? maybe it's I thought it was the community college folks. Let me find the.
Okay, I'd like to move this bill if we can, but you can put it aside for a minute. Okay, let's go to HB 1207 on which list? On 42. She was second graphic.
Okay. Yeah, it was MHEC. Did you get a copy yet?
I did, yes.
Yes. All right, House Bill 1207, Environment Commission on Environmental Justice and Sustainable Communities Reform. So this bill makes several changes to the Commission on Environmental Justice and Sustainable Communities. The bill alters the composition of the commission and the designation of the chair, requires that, to the extent practicable, the membership reflect the racial, gender, ethnic, and geographic diversity of the state, requires the Maryland Department of the Environment to provide new commission members with a specified orientation, and requires the commission to meet at least 6 times per calendar year and establishes meeting requirements as specified. The bill also alters and expands the required duties of the commission. Just a quick recap, the bill as it came over from the House is not identical to Senate Bill 674. The House made a couple of changes. Specifically, it struck representatives that were to be jointly appointed by the Senate President and the Speaker, and instead has the governor appointing all of these representatives. It also adds 2 representatives of a labor union designated by the Maryland State and D.C. AFL-CIO. It requires the Commission to establish rotating meeting locations in different geographic locations of the state, and specifies that meetings must be reasonably accessible to all attendees, including persons with limited English proficiency and disabilities. Requires the Department of the Environment to give 30 days notice of meetings. Prohibits a member of the Commission from representing more than one entity or group. And alters and adds a little bit of kind of clarity to the responsibilities of the Commission. Additionally, amendments just came around being offered by Senator Washington. These amendments sort of add, kind of as an alternative to the committee or the commission meetings happening around the state, this idea of community listening sessions. So requires the commission to host at least 4 community listening sessions per calendar year in communities disproportionately impacted by environmental and public health hazards, with a majority of the members of the commission present at each listening session. So those listening sessions would be subject to those same requirements of having rotating either meetings or community listening sessions located in different geographic locations of the state. And also would make those community listening sessions subject to the requirement that they be reasonably accessible to all attendees, including persons with limited English proficiency and disabilities.
Okay, let's put something in front of us first. Is there a motion on the bill? It's been moved, and is there a second? Second. Senator Patterson.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. This is a very important bill, and I'm a little nervous if we add new amendments at this point and try to send it back over to the House, if we might end up doing. And I really think it's imperative that this restructuring of the environmental agency get moving and get moving fast. So I would hope, and I like the I like the proposed amendments to listening session because they don't come out to the community. You don't know much about them, but I just feel a little nervous about whether or not it might die.
Senator Washington.
Thank you. I have been working with the bill sponsor in the House on these amendments. I also felt that instead of, as they brought it over, they're having the commission meeting rotating, and I just thought that could be confusing to constituents. But I got the idea of wanting it to spread around the state, so rather than requiring the commission to move around all the time, that they just go out and engage in the community. But if the chair or other people are worried that this will negatively impact it, there was another amendment I thought that I wanted to revert back to sharing the appointments of both the House and the Senate. I mean, they agreed to that also, or at least the sponsor did. So I don't see that amendment, but I thought I requested that as well.
Senator Patterson, they have the Senate bill. So if we make amendments, they'll just amend the Senate bill, send it over, and we'll concur. So
Okay.
I think we have time.
Okay.
And Senator Washington, in terms of your last comment, what I've heard secondhand, maybe third hand, is the Speaker's office doesn't want to appoint people. They feel overburdened. So I think that's where that came from. And while the sponsor might be fine with it, I think some of that amendment came from higher up. Okay. Yeah. So the bill's in front of us. The Washington amendments have been moved and seconded. Any objection to adopting the Washington amendments? Seeing none, they're adopted. The bill as amended. Senator Ellis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The provision in the amendments that takes out the appointment authority for commission members from the Senate President and the Speaker of the House, that's kind of problematic. Right now, not just this governor, but previous governors have not really kept that commission going. So the idea from the President's work group on equity and inclusion was to have the General Assembly more involved in the commission. And taking out that appointment authority for those additional members would return, I believe, to a possible past neglect. So I'm thinking that provision the House reinserted is problematic. And of course, they weren't privy to the discussions we had in the President's work group on equity and inclusion. So I would like to make a motion to remove that provision in their amendments and return that section to the original Senate version.
It's in order. Is there a second? Okay, it's been seconded. Senator, look, any amendment is appropriate. It's my understanding, and I can't be absolutely sure, that changing that came from the Speaker's office. Because they're half of that duo, that they don't want responsibility for having to name people to committees and commissions. So.
Oh, okay, I missed that part.
We can do it. I just don't know if it's going to complicate it. And some of these are appointed by groups. So in other words, MML appoints the local government, AFL-CIO representatives appoint some folks, MACO appoints some. So it's not all given up helter-skelter. And again, I agree with you. I like the original language. I'm just not sure. I don't want to jeopardize
Well,
it.
do you think it's problematic for us to,
Look,
at this stage?
I'm not happy with the change, but if it came from the Speaker's office, they're probably not going to accept anything else. And I have to tell you one other thing, Senator. In the climate change bill, which is not before us, we had a section on environmental justice and on the Climate Commission. We had like 3 or 4 charges for them to do for accountability's sake. The House changed that and took out the Climate Commission and shifted that back to the Department of the Environment, which I was also not happy with. So I don't know what's happening over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, it's our call, but I don't want us to ignore other political realities. That's all. Senator Washington, do you know anything else?
Yeah.
I believe these will be, at least as of the last conversation, if they kick them back, then I guess we make another decision. But my understanding is, with this, talking with the Senate sponsor, at least they agree to just keep
We're
it
not
in
worried
one
about that.
location. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm asking you to reflect
I'm sorry.
on
Yes,
Senator Ellis's comment.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I'm willing to accept that, rather than, I mean, I agree that we shouldn't abdicate our responsibility to appoint committees, but if we need cooperation, and we're not going to get it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think we accepted Senator Washington's amendment.
Yeah.
So,
You raised the appointment process, and I wanted to give that fair voice and either move it or drop it, but I just wanted to,
yeah. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the point I was trying to make is they're going to look at another amendment anyway, so they can look at this and we have to get back to us. So, I think that's very important because that was the crux of the discussion of that commission when morbid bound. And so that's my strong recommendation.
what
Was there a second
there was for
Okay.
purpose of
discussion?
discussion. I'm sympathetic to the strong recommendation. I guess my question is, do you want to move the amendment, debate it, and try to adopt it?
Do I want to move it? Okay.
Yes, look,
Okay. So, I move that amendment.
no, I'm not encouraging that. I'm just saying that I mean, I want to give respect to any motions, but as I have some political concerns that it could jeopardize the bill, but that's just my own concern.
Well, that's a big area, and without our participation in the General Assembly, there's a great risk that the commission will go back to doing almost nothing. And so the entire mission, use a military term, will be jeopardized anyway. So, I think that's an important part of it. And the House have 3 times more members as the Senate, but we have folks in the Senate willing to make sure Environmental Justice Commission works. So, do I need to move it again, or?
No, I wanted to know if you wanted to pursue it.
Sure, it's up to, leave it up to the body to decide, but personally, I would
I'm just
pursue it.
We've got to figure out how to do that. So we would put back 1, 2, 3, and 4 on page 4, top of 4. And then would we subtract them from page 3, line 13 to 25? I'm just trying. Okay. The motion before you is to, so we'd subtract the new numbers?
The totals would end up being the same, but it would go back to, for example, one representative of communities disproportionately impacted being appointed by the governor, and 3 by the presiding officers, and then 1 and 1 for the other things.
Okay. Returning the language to the appointment from the presiding officers. Before us, Senator Hester.
I just had a question.
Please.
It sounded, Senator Washington, it sounded like you had been in conversation with the sponsor. I mean, I'm very sympathetic to this amendment. Do you think that this
Senator Ellis makes a point, we're sending amendments anyway. And I originally requested a similar amendment. So I had not had that. The sponsor didn't have a problem with it. So.
We have before us the Ellis Amendment, returning appointment, the number of appointments back to the Speaker and the Senate President. All those in favor signify by raising their hand. Those opposed? The amendment passes. Bill's amended. Anybody objecting to this bill? Okay, it'll go with the 2 amendments. Let's go back to 1245. That was the Washington bill, guaranteed access. Uh, 1245 was on the back page of 43. It's the one we talked about a few minutes ago. It's also on the back page of 43.
We're not doing 43 anymore.
The chair stands corrected. That falls under whoops. Okay, 1245, yes, on the back page of 45. Ms. Goodman did send me MHEC's opinion. None of the other people testifying called for the same amendment. Neither Montgomery County Board of Education, Catholic Conference, anybody else. So my suggestion is we move it as it is. Is there a motion and a second? It's been moved. It's been seconded. Senator Carrozza.
I know we started it, then we just came back, and I had questions when we were on it before. I understand the amount, the mandated appropriation came down, but I was still trying to understand what the mandated appropriation would be used for, and if there was anything of what we passed in previous bills, whether it was Kerwin or other bills that cover some of, if there's any crossover from the other bills and what we're trying to do here, since it is a mandated appropriation.
Senator. Ms. Goodman, you were just either.
So the mandated appropriation is just for the grant program. I mean, it's money to fund these grants. That's what it's for.
Which provides these free and reduced meals?
No. It provides money for college. So this is, there's the Next Generation of Scholars Maryland program and these Guaranteed Access Grant program. So essentially, these programs, they assist students in going to college by helping them meet certain requirements. They help them to get a plan together so that they understand financial aid, so they keep their grades up, in selecting a good college for them, career interests, mentorship, those kind of things. Those are all, that's like the Next Generation Scholars of Maryland, and then the grant program helps them pay for college.
So they receive these grants at what stage? This is in 7th and 8th grade? And I guess what I'm trying to understand is when they get these grants, how it links to Promise, and with the infusion of Kerwin, if some of this isn't already covered.
So the Next Generation Scholars of Maryland program distributes grants to nonprofit organizations that administer the program in the local school systems. And the Guaranteed Access Grant is a higher ed assistance grant.
Essentially, Senator, pre-qualifying, bless you, means that you commit to doing a number of things. You have to keep a certain attendance, not get caught with drugs, apply for admission to higher institutions, file FAFSA, and then participate in this program led by nonprofits called Next Generation Scholars until they graduate. And if they meet all these requirements and get into an institution, these grants will be used for them in higher education. But it's not just for community college, it's for four-year college as well. So they still have to get into college, but it's like a commitment to...
Like a bridge program.
It's a bridge program. It used to start in 7th and 8th grade. This expands to 9th grade. Mr. Fisher, who's testified recently this year, runs a program in the Washington region, and Cassie Motz, I think it is, runs one in the Baltimore region. So it's to help kids along where they actually get through high school, follow the rules, and are prepared to go to college. And I think they've got a very good track record. And it could be any nonprofit. It doesn't have to be one of theirs. So I think that's what the program does, and it becomes part of the Rawlings Scholarship, I think.
Yes. So the Guaranteed Access Grant is a component of the Delegate Howard P. Rawlings Educational Excellence Awards Program that covers 100% of need when combined with the federal grant for the state's lowest income students. The maximum award is $19,400. So it helps send them to college, and it helps these nonprofits connect students to getting to college.
And Senator, one other thing, the Promise Scholar, if they go to community college, this kicks in first, and if it still doesn't pay for their tuition community college, the Promise is a last dollar. So it would basically, it frees up money for other students. Senator Ellis.
My questions were asked by Senator Carozza and answered, so thank you. Thank you, Senator.
Further questions on the bill? Would anybody like to be recorded in the negative on this legislation? Seeing none, that will go to the floor unanimous. Okay. Okay, let's go to HB 485 on list 42. No, that was list 43. You almost caught me there.
House Bill 485. Okay, so House Bill 485 is public-private partnerships and the collection of video tolls. This bill establishes the Public-Private Partnership Oversight Review Board, alters the review and approval process for public-private partnerships, or P3s, valued at more than $500 million, and expands the requirement for all P3 agreements. So as a point of kind of reference, this committee did pass Senate Bill 361, but it was jointly assigned, and it went to B&T and did not subsequently move. So in voting packet 42, I did include a copy of the Senate bill as amended by this committee. So that begins on page 4 of, again, voting packet number 42, which is the holdover one from last Friday. Basically, the Senate bill, the only amendments really were striking language that provided for, I think this is on page 6, the Baltimore Metropolitan Council and Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, or an appropriate metropolitan planning organization to provide staff for the board in conjunction with the Department of Legislative Services. That was the only change that this committee made. The House made a number of additional changes. So, in addition to striking those provisions requiring the municipal planning organizations to help staff the Oversight Review Board, the House bill requires for a P3 that is proposed to be developed in phases that the reporting agency submit a pre-solicitation report for each phase. It establishes that the sum of the total value of each phase shall be used to calculate the value of the P3 for purposes of pre-solicitation agreement reporting and review requirements. Strikes the requirement that the final environmental impact statement be submitted with the pre-solicitation report for certain P3s, and requires for a P3 with a total value that exceeds $500 million, 1, that the review board receive a copy of the proposed P3 agreement prior to approval by BPW, the Board of Public Works. 2, that certain credit and risk analyses of the contracts under the P3 agreement, as required by the bill, be performed by a financial advisor chosen by the Treasurer's Office, rather than by credit reporting agencies. It also extends a sunset provision allowing the Maryland the Maryland Transportation Authority to recall certain toll debts issued to the Central Collection Unit. Requires a certain traffic analysis on the traffic patterns and volumes on I-495 and I-270, and makes the act an emergency measure.
Vice Chair?
Move the bill.
Okay.
The amendments.
First of all, we got to move the bill. It's been moved. Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. And I'm going to assume we want to move the amendments. The amendments have been moved and seconded by the same people?
Well, there are no amendments.
Oh, the amendments the House added. Okay. Discussion on the House bill. 485.
Briefly, for those of you not from the DC metro area, you may not be as familiar with this project, but this is a really important bill that provides, I don't know whether to say belts and suspenders or oversight, transparency, accountability, all the things we want when that much money is being spent. It's a controversial project, and whether and how it goes forward is going to be pretty critical fiscally as well as environmentally and in terms of economics and redevelopment in the whole region. So it's a pretty important bill, and it sounds like the House did a good job with their version. So I support this bill.
Discussion. Senator Riley, followed by Senator Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I presume that the Vice Chair was talking about the purple line?
No. I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not, because,
I'm ignorant.
Sorry, yes, this is about roadway construction for I-270, which runs up through Rockville and Gaithersburg and beyond, and up to Frederick and beyond, as well as the Beltway, which goes from Virginia all the way around the D.C. metro area, as you know. And so, so the administration has been trying to expedite a plan that a lot of people, a lot of neighborhoods, a lot of fiscal analysts and others have concerns about. And so this would provide a little bit more oversight before going forward in too rapid a way.
Mr. Chair, is this dollar amount of $500 million, is that the biggest project we've had? Would it affect very many projects beside the particular one the Vice Chair mentioned?
Let me leave that to committee counsel.
While we're waiting for committee counsel, if you go to page 13, Senator Riley, section 3, it specifically talks about the public-private partnership for I-485 and I-270.
Gotcha.
So it's pretty specific.
So if it's that specific in the bill, then it could not affect any other project in the state.
So it's drafted so that it would apply to anything over 500 million, which, I mean, I don't know that there's a lot of P3 projects over that amount, but anytime you're talking about a large transportation P3 project, it is likely, if it's going to be on the scale of something like a road widening or a
Bay Bridge.
Bridge construction or something like that.
Or a Bay Bridge.
Potentially, yes, it could. Yeah. If the P3 was the way they wanted to go through with that.
Thank you. Ms. Morton, there was a letter of opposition from Maryland Department of Transportation. Did any of the amendments, well, we had no amendments. Does the bill address any of their concerns? Do you know?
I believe some of it, a little bit.
Some of it's policy. They don't want outside groups screwing with a proven P3 process that's been in effect for a long time. But other than that, there are some other things.
And I'd have to take another look at what specifically.
Yeah, they don't like it.
Yeah, we know that.
Right. So, I mean, so one of the things that they pointed out was requiring a final environmental impact statement. Just with the timeline of that doesn't work. So that was one thing that the House took out.
I can't imagine the traffic analysis of COVID-19 is relevant in terms of a 5 or 10-year project.
Senator, I guess I'd suggest one of two things. Either speak against it or offer an amendment.
Yeah, I have no amendments to offer.
That's fine.
Right. And so that piece, the COVID-19 analysis, that is specific to the I-495 and I-270. So that's in uncodified language at the end on page 13.
Okay.
That is specific to those projects. But the other pieces, the P3 oversight kind of review board pieces, the requirements for the pre-solicitation reports at, the different phases of the project, those are the pieces that would apply to all contracts over $500 million.
Okay, if I can for just a second, speak against the bill?
Senator,
Yeah, thank you very much. It is my anticipation that in the next 3.5 years, we will have significant amount of infrastructure money coming to the state of Maryland. And I'm afraid that this bill will provide artificial obstacles for us using effectively those dollars that are coming to us. So I'd encourage a no vote. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Ellis, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand the need for this bill and the oversight. Just in the last couple of weeks, we've gotten a lot of emails, and one particular individual is a leader in the trades union. He lives in my district, around the corner from me, and gave me a lot of documentation. And I'm in no position to offer any amendments on this bill. It's kind of above my pay grade. It's complicated, but I believe I always have to represent all my constituents well. And so this gentleman said this bill would seem to complicate and throw in jeopardy quite a few of the projects that are on the way now. Purple Line, the American Legion Bridge replacement in 270, and several other projects that they have going on. This is from the trades union perspective. And their recommendation was to send this back to the some blue ribbon commission that they had to really work it out. And so like I said, I haven't had time to really digest all this, but I just want to relay the concern of this prominent leader in the trades.
Thank you. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So first off, I think Senator Riley made a really interesting and important point about the Biden-Harris administration's infrastructure bill. What we've got right now is a project that many of us believe has not been suitably analyzed generally, environmentally and fiscally. They are not clear with how much the tolls are going to be, who's going to be charged, or anything. I mean, it's really sort of, they're kind of wanting to build it and then figure out the details later, which concerns a lot of us. The question of the pandemic that I thought was a really smart question is about how significantly the traffic numbers and density is going to change as a result of everyone working from home. We don't think that people are going to be getting back in their cars in the immediate future with the same ferocity and regularity, in which case we may not have exactly the same traffic problems that we did a year ago or a year plus ago. And so building it, shutting it down, causing all sorts of problems and spending gobs and gobs of taxpayer money when there really may not be the demand is problematic. So I've just started messaging with the sponsor, so I don't know whether there is a tweak in light of the federal possibility of federal money, or what might be the wisdom here, Mr. Chair.
Well, look, I support the bill. I'm going to vote for it. I have no great expectations it's going to move out of budget and tax. Senator Ellis, I'm very sympathetic about anything that creates jobs we want. But I also know that if we built mass transit, the Red Line in Baltimore, or mass transit from Waldorf to Suitland, or if we built a dedicated bus lane along 270 from Gaithersburg to Frederick, there are other ways to create jobs. And I'm not convinced building more roads is the answer. And in fact, I believe the P3 partners already said, originally their statement was it won't cost any money to the state. And they put up the front money, they collect the tolls, and everything is copacetic. But in the last 5 months, they've now said the state could have a liability up to $250 million, I believe was the number I read. And the tolls to go from northern part of the Beltway across the American Legion Bridge on the toll lanes could be $30 or $40 for like 6 miles, 7 miles. So I think it's a better way to spend money. So I do hope we get federal money. I guess I'd rather not dump it into building more lanes on the Beltway 270 and across the bridge. So I don't know if there's any answer to this. I think we should vote our conscience, send up the budget and tax. I'd be surprised if it hits the floor. They're very conservative on this, and they've had the Senate version for weeks. So, please.
So you're saying we definitely might have more time to really consider all these issues.
Well, yeah. But you need to understand that they're proceeding. I mean, the federal government originally had an EIS, released it, and they had like a 30-day time response. Now it's been delayed an extra month. So originally the Trump administration and then the Hogan administration put this on the very big fast track. I don't know if it's slowing down or not.
Okay.
I think this bill does put some limitations in place. I think it's the right thing to do. I'm not sure B&T will say the same thing. So there are lots of puts and takes on this issue.
Yeah. And so in looking, Mr. Chairman and colleagues, looking at the long list of amendments that was sent to me, seemed like some of them were already placed in the House bill. And so I think they try to please those advocates. So I guess I'll vote with the chair and vice chair. So, thank you.
Okay, further debate on the bill. 1245, 485. Further discussion. Let's take a roll call.
Senator Kagan?
Yes.
Senator Lamb?
Yes.
Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Ellis?
Yes.
Senator Gallion?
No.
Senator Carozza? Senator Washington?
Yes.
Senator Riley?
No.
Senator Patterson?
Oh, I vote aye, and explaining my vote, I am concerned about how this project might impact other projects in the pipeline. And to give you a clear example, I've been waiting 20 years to get something done on 210 that has been listed as the #1 fatality road in the state of Maryland. And we still have not even got beyond the first overpass. We're supposed to be getting a total of 6. And I am struggling with this. I don't like it because I think it shows a total disrespect for those of us who have put up with traffic over the years, and nothing has been done about it. And we were promised a long time ago, we passed the damn gas tax, that we would get money to take care of this issue, and it hasn't happened.
Senator Sabanero?
How do I follow that?
And Senator Penske? 7-4.
Bill passes 7-4. It goes to budget and tax. Who has a second? Okay, next let's go on list 45, 320, HB 320.
House Bill 320, Marin Longitudinal Data System, Transfer of Student Data Modifications. This bill in general transfers the responsibility for providing specified professional and occupational license and industry vocational certificate data to the Maryland Longitudinal Data System Center from the Maryland Higher Education Commission as an intermediary directly to the specified state licensing authorities and specified third-party certifiers. There's no amendments, and there was no opposition at the hearing.
Is there a motion? I'm sorry? Move favorable. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Sure.
Okay, I got a sure over here. So it's been moved and seconded on Bill 320, which is a bit of a cleanup. Senator Carozza.
I know that we've discussed similar bills, and I'm trying to bring myself up to speed on the different data bills that we've already either have passed, or if this one's coming back to us for, but aren't there similar type bills we already passed on the data bills?
Senator, this is essentially a cleanup bill. Apparently, in 2018, this legislature passed the Career Preparation Expansion Act, which required MHEC to collect and provide to the center specified identifying information on business licenses and students receiving industry and vocational certificates. So you had to pass the data twice. They had to pass it from the industry and the licensing folks to MHEC, and then from MHEC to the center. And that apparently opens up the data to other problems, having to move it twice instead of once. So what this does is it takes out the intermediary and puts it right where it's going to end up in the first place, which is at the center. That's what this bill does. Concerns? Yes, it's to address some of the privacy concerns and to make sure that the data is safer in one transfer versus multiple transfers.
Further questions or discussion on the bill? Seeing none, would anybody like to be recorded in the negative? Seeing none, that will go to the floor. 373.
Senate Bill 373, Education, Child Abuse, and Sexual Misconduct Prevention. hiring emergent employees. This bill authorizes a local board of education or non-public school to hire an applicant as an emergent employee for up to 60 days pending a specified review of information and records regarding an individual's employment history as required under current law for applicants who have direct contact with minors. The bill also alters statutory provisions that specify the employment history that schools are required to obtain before hiring an individual who will have direct contact with minors, alters the definition of direct contact with minors, authorizes a local board or non-public school to share employment history record with other local boards or non-public schools, authorizes a contracting agency to share an employment history with other contracting agencies, establishes conditions under which a local board or non-public school may use employment history review completed by a current or former employer, and establishes conditions under which a contracting agency may use employment history review completed by another contracting agency. I guess a shorter version is this is, again, another cleanup bill where issues emerged the first time in all of the duplication of efforts by various entities because there was no sharing of the data allowed. So this was to prevent employees hiding possible sexual misconduct or charges of child abuse in former jobs and then moving on to a new job but not having the access to that data. So this allows these various entities to share some of this in a 10-year period, not past that.
Madam Vice Chair, followed by Senator Hester.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Goodman, two questions. First, it has a 60-day requirement to complete the background check on what they call an emergent employee. Is that a reasonable period of time, and can that be done?
Yes.
Okay, and the second question is, it talks about if you get dismissed for a reason other than child sexual abuse or sexual misconduct, it can be appealed. If there's an allegation of child sex abuse or sexual misconduct, can that be appealed? Because I'm looking and I'm not sure whether I see that. So that section is on page 5,
Okay.
lines 18 through 26.
So within 60 days after hiring an applicant as an emergent employee or temporary, a county board's decision to dismiss the emergent employee for any reason other than child sexual abuse may be appealed in accordance with 4205, in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement, if applicable, in accordance with 6202.
Right, that's the section I just flagged. So that's other than child sexual abuse or
Right.
sexual misconduct. The question is, if someone is accused of such and therefore dismissed, it appears in this bill, but maybe it's elsewhere in code, can that accused person appeal saying, no, it wasn't me, it was this other person, or it never happened, or whatever? Can that?
Well, this is an emergent employee, so they're not a full employee. So
I am aware of that.
At this point, it does not appear that they can.
So someone could lose their job and not be able to appeal for an allegation, but they can be dismissed for stealing pencils, but if they're accused of sexual misconduct, which obviously is a great reason to dismiss somebody, but if there's a false accusation, it doesn't appear that there's an ability to appeal before losing their job or even after losing their job. And it stays on their record for up to 10 years and can be shared with other jurisdictions. I just wonder innocent until proven guilty. I just wonder.
Yeah, but I do think these are people who are on the job 30 days, 60 days. I mean, in a lot of cases, they can be dropped at will. I mean, they may or may not be on a contract. I don't know.
There's some union rep stuff, because it says collective bargaining agreement applicable. They can be dismissed for any reason other than child sexual abuse or sexual misconduct. And for any other reason, that can be appealed.
Yeah, we can hold it. Check into it. Okay, I want to bring your attention before we vote some more on Senate Bill 1091 on list 45. And for that matter, Senate Bill 829 on page 2. It's 1091 and Senator Lamb's bill, which we heard many weeks ago, 829, on emergency procurement. Unless you were out of town, you probably heard about the audit done by the independent legislative audits, which a couple of the media outlets have jumped on fairly strongly. We're going to take this bill up tomorrow. There are amendments being developed by staff, so you might want to review it. This is an issue a lot of people are asking about, wanting to know about. Without getting too partisan, emergency procurement procedures were ignored on the South Korean tests, as you can tell from the article. So I don't want to take time up today. My sense is we're going to work off Delegate Resnick's bill, and there will be amendments. So if you want to do a little homework, it's coming up, and we will take it up. And I don't know where the votes are, but obviously it's important to a lot of people. So look at it in preparation for tomorrow's session. Secondly, in terms of highlighting, last week on list 44, we talked about the Wilkins and West bill, Value My Vote Act, election law. This was to expand what was being done at the Baltimore Correction Facility, which is a state facility, and to what degree should we do it across the whole state. We'd spent time discussing whether it's the local correction facility, the local holding facility, the local detention facility, and we talked about how narrow or how wide, because it would require drop box and a number of other things. So I spoke with the chair of Judiciary today. They are taking up both issues as well, and they hadn't actually zeroed in and want to know where we were going. So I'm thinking we're going to wait one more day, see if we can coordinate the language so we're on the same page. So I will have our committee counsel speak with their committee counsel, and we'll probably take that up tomorrow as well. Okay, I just wanted to get that out. Let's do 189. I see there's an amendment for that. Ms. Foxworth? Oh. You're muted, Alexis.
Okay, I'm back. So House Bill 189 establishes the mobile laundry for the homeless pilot program, which will provide matching grants for nonprofits in their efforts to provide mobile laundry services for the homeless. The Division of Neighborhood Revitalization, which is housed within Department of Housing and Community Development, is authorized to administer the program. And the bill outlines requirements for the grants and outlines positive rating factors that the department can incorporate or consider for applications. The bill requires the division to submit program outcomes to the department by October 1, 2023, and by December 15, 2024, the department has to evaluate whether the program should continue. So the program itself will sunset on September 30th, 2025. There is an additional amendment to add on to the reporting requirements. This amendment is by Senator Pinsky, and it will require the program, the division actually, to report on program outcomes to the governor and the General Assembly before October 1st, 2023, in addition to those other program requirements or reporting requirements.
Yeah, I just got this. Is Amendment 2 correct? It says, after the first "the" on 28, add the governor.
Is it correct?
As I read it, it says on page 3, line 28, after the first "the," it says.
So I think that does referring to the department in terms of the mandate to report. So the Division of Neighborhood Revitalization is what that is referring to.
If you read it, how the amendment's drafted, it says, on or before December 15, 2024, the department shall evaluate the governor, unless I'm reading this wrong.
Okay, let me take another look at the reprint
I
version.
could use some help here. There's a freestanding amendment under my name. The bill is 189. It should be on your desk. Are there any more copies of the Pinsky Amendment to 189? Here.
I didn't get that question.
As I read the description of the amendment, the bottom part, it says page 3, line 28, after the first "the," put in governor.
Right, so that's the additional reporting requirement that'll be made to the governor by the department on those program outcomes. So initially, the reporting requirements were to be made to another entity. So
No, I know the intent, Foxworth, but as I read it, it says the department shall evaluate the governor.
She'll send the report to the governor. Submit to the governor the outcomes.
So, yeah, I can read the reprinted language. So it says the division, so Division of Neighborhood Revitalization Services shall submit to the governor, to the department, and to the General Assembly this report. So those are all the entities that it has to report to.
Are you looking at third reader version?
So as I read it, it makes sense within the intent, right? So the division is going to report to the governor. The division is going to also report to the department, and the division will finally report to the General Assembly on the outcomes of the program.
I was reading
by a specified date.
I was reading the first reading version of the bill,
Rather than third reader.
not the third reader, so it's my mistake. Okay.
But it's still weird to submit it to the governor. Yes, so third reader, it does roll correctly. The question is whether the governor should be getting a copy of this. It seems to me like we ought to keep the governor's attention on a little higher level things than a pilot program that hopefully will work and be meaningful and roll out. But do we normally report pilot program results to the governor? I mean, I think legislative committees are fine. I'm just not sure about the governor.
I'm going to withdraw the amendment. I don't know where it came from.
Okay, that makes sense.
To be honest with you. Okay, so we're 189. Is there a motion on the bill? It's been moved and seconded. Discussion on 189 without the amendment. I'm withdrawing it.
We're never submitting it.
I must have been temporary amnesia or in the middle of my sleep. Further discussion on 189. And this, I believe, is a cross-file. Senator Washington, do you have the cross-file on this?
There is no cross-file.
Oh, no cross-file. Okay. Okay. Roll call.
Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Lamb?
Yes.
Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Ellis? Yes. Senator Gallion?
No.
Senator Carozza? Yes. Senator Washington?
Yes.
Senator Riley?
Yes.
Senator Patterson?
Yes.
Senator Simonier?
Yes.
And Senator Penske?
Yes.
10-1.
Bill passes 10-1. Let's go to HB 307.
HB 307, Maryland Technology Internship Program, Qualifications for Participation, Alterations. This bill incorporates technology-based nonprofit organizations into the existing Maryland Technology Internship Program, allowing them to participate in the same way as technology-based businesses and units of state and local government if they meet specified requirements. In addition, the bill increases the cumulative or decreases the cumulative grade point average required for an intern to participate in MTIP from 3.0 to 2.5. There are no amendments and there was no opposition.
Is there a motion? It's been moved, 307. Is there a second? It's been moved and second. Is there further debate on 307? Seeing none, would anybody like to be recorded in the negative? Not seeing any red lights on. Okay, unanimous. Let's go down to Howard County, take a trip up north or west, northwest. 1142.
House Bill 1142, Howard County School Redistricting, Public Testimony. This bill requires that if the redistricting plan proposed by the Howard County Board of Education differs from the plan proposed by the county superintendent, the board must allow public testimony from one or more members of a household whose school assignment is changed only in the board's plan before the final vote is taken on either plan. No amendments, no opposition. We have the local letter.
Senator Lamb has moved, moved the bill. Is there a second from the second Howard County representative? Discussion on 1142. Seeing none. Anybody wish to vote in the opposition? Seeing none, the bill passes. Howard County 1190.
House Bill 1190, Howard County Board of Education, Redetermination of Geographic Attendance Area. This bill requires the Howard County Board of Education to submit specified reports to the General Assembly and the county delegation beginning in the 2021-2022 school year. This includes an annual report on the program capacity of each permanent school facility based on the rates set by the county board. Each year, that student enrollment at a facility is not within 10% of target utilization, the county board must also submit a report on a plan to adjust student enrollment to meet target utilization. If a student enrollment at a facility is not within 20% of target utilization, the county board must implement the processes described in the school system's policy 6010 or successor policy to assess the need for a redetermination of the geographic attendance area. If the outcome of the assessment is not a redetermination of the geographic attendance area, the county board must submit a report explaining the reason that the redetermination was not appropriate and a plan to adjust student enrollment to meet target utilization. No amendments, no opposition. We have the local letter.
Discussion. Senator Ellis.
So I'm listening to this. I'm trying to get ideas from my school district. So, isn't this kind of a getting really deep into the operation of the school system, and why is that necessary? If you can answer that, Senator.
I was waiting for him.
So that's a good question. The reason it has kind of bubbled up to this level is because there was a recognition that when it comes to the redetermination of geographic boundaries, we all have a hand in it in these types of home rule counties. So there's a county council, there's a county executive. The council oftentimes, at least in Howard County, is the zoning board and will determine where development takes place and where new housing units are being built. So they have an input into there. The county executive as well, when it comes to the budget of where and when new schools would be able to be created or renovated to be able to account for those new units and new students, as well as the Board of Education, because they're the ones that will ultimately decide where these new schools will go as well. And the state delegation has a hand in this too, because of the funding support that comes from the state to the locals to be able to support these schools. So this is an effort to try to unify and get us all kind of working off the same sheet of music with better reporting and input across the board to all the stakeholders.
Thank you, Senator.
Okay, hopefully that helped, Senator Ellis. And informative. Any further discussion on 1190, local bill? We have a letter. Excuse me. Anybody wish to be recorded in the negative? Seeing none, that will go to the floor. Senate Bill 980. Stacy, Obie said it was sent.
I didn't receive that copy.
You have a copy? Okay. Okay, 980 is not on the list. It was a local Prince George's County bill we heard last week. Public ethics bill dealing with comprehensive master plan. Just pull the letter up, just make sure.
It's a House bill.
I'm sorry, it's HB 980?
Yeah.
HB 980. The delegation voted on it at 3:30 today.
Do you want me to read the snippet here?
Yeah.
So House Bill 980, Prince George's County, Public Ethics, Definition of Application. This bill alters the definition of application as it applies to the provisions of the Maryland Public Ethics Law relating to applications for land use decisions in Prince George's County to exclude participation in adopting and improving a countywide zoning map amendment that is recommended by the Planning Board and approved by the District Council, where the intent is to implement an approved general plan by repealing and replacing. The bill takes effect on July 1, 2021 and terminates on December 31, 2022.
Okay, I believe Senator Patterson can show the letter has arrived. I don't know.
Your office,
Well,
Senator
I might not have seen it. Senator Patterson, just read it if you would.
Pardon me?
Read the letter.
Oh, yes. Dear Chairman Pinsky, on behalf of the Prince George's County Senate delegation, I am requesting the committee's support of House Bill 980, Prince George's County Public Effort Definition of Application, Prince George's County, with House Bill 41621. This bill was voted favorable with amendment by the delegation 8-0.
Okay, not getting detail on local bill, but you talk about craziness. We have a very strict ethics bill in terms of receiving money for a county council. One of the strongest, if not the strongest, in the state. They were working on a comprehensive master plan for the whole county. But because some of them received small donations, not from builders or developers, in doing this comprehensive master plan, a majority of the council had to recuse themselves so they couldn't vote and keep working on this master plan. So this bill came in to try to allow them to complete the master plan for the whole county of zoning, industrial, agricultural, mixed use, et cetera, to get around the old law. So we have spent numerous hours in meetings in the Prince George's County. So the amendment, we think, closes the door on the concerns of some of the anti-growth people, so it's not abused. So that's the short of it. Let's move the bill. Someone want to move the bill?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? I'll second it. Senator Patterson will move the amendments.
So moved.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Yeah. We don't have the amendments in front of us.
I have the amendments here. Hold on.
You do?
I do, yeah. I have the amendments, not the letter.
Yeah, I have the letter here and it's signed.
Here, I'm going to print this out.
You want to send it to yourself here? I have it signed here.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Okay, we'll deal with it after the
Okay.
voting session, okay?
Okay.
We'll let you know what you're voting on. Hold tight. After that, we're going to adjourn. I know some people have a 6:45 meeting. It'll give you about 35 or 40 minutes to catch a little light dinner if you want. And we have hearings tomorrow, and we will vote after the hearings. But Ms. Goodman does want to bring up one other bill that I failed to mention. Why don't we do that while we're waiting, Ms. Goodman? HB 171.
Right. So yesterday, or Friday, as you recall, you voted on this State Department of Education school discipline data collection. The amendment that the committee approved was to take out the posting on the department's website of the school level discipline data. Well, because this was on the fly and I didn't have a chance to really look at the bill as going through it, we've identified a problem that makes it maybe impossible to either implement certain provisions, or I would need the committee's guidance on how to proceed. If you pulled up House Bill 171, third reader on your computers, you could see on page 4, subsection G, starting on line 13. This is on page 4, line 13, subsection G. This is talking about the high suspending schools. 171. House Bill 171. So this subsection requires the department to lower the risk ratio and the state comparison threshold for identifying action under the federal regulations for IDEA for these high disproportionality from 3 to 2, and then requires the department to report the disproportionality data for any school identified as high suspending and including alternative schools and programs. So if you take out the provision to suddenly not report this data on their website, where do you want this information to go? Because this is all school level data here. So there's a couple options. You can take out this requirement to report on this, quote, newly identified high suspending schools. The committee could decide to only report this data to the department, or the department will report it as other data is reported now to the General Assembly and the governor, instead of versus posting on the website. This is a policy decision that was not identified yesterday. So
People recall the bill. Senator Patterson, then Senator Washington.
I'm sorry.
Senator Washington.
Oh, yes. So the data should be collected and reported. I guess the department should know about it, and the school systems, I'm assuming, would get it. And it looks like gathered, okay, so the General Assembly, I guess it could also be reported to us.
So on page 3 of the bill? On page 3 of the bill,
Yeah.
an existing law on line 28, on line 16. The department shall submit to the governor and the General Assembly a student discipline data report that includes, so existing data on school discipline is only reported. This bill was to open it up and publish this data on the website. But again, as you move to go away from school level data on the website, this is irreconcilable with that request. So where do you want this data still reported, and who do you want it reported to?
I guess I don't understand the irreconcilability. I'm sorry. So if we're already reporting on October 1 each year, the school discipline data, shouldn't it just be included as a part of that report?
What I'm saying is that this is all school level data. Anything in subsection G about being a high suspending school, this is not local school system level data. This is all school level data.
Is this data already on the website?
No, because this is new. This is the new proposed reporting requirement.
I see.
And what I'm saying is that the amendment that the committee agreed to on Friday was to not publish the school level data. This is all just school level data. I wasn't just going to wipe it out of the bill without the consent of the committee. What I'm saying is that it's not reconcilable with not reporting on school level data unless this data only goes to the governor and the General Assembly as the data discipline report now goes to. Those are options. So you could wipe it out of the bill, or you can have it just reported the same way existing data is.
Have it just reported the same way existing data is. Do people agree with that? Or?
Let me go to Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I was the one who expressed concerns about property values and slippery slopes and neighborhoods kind of just spiraling downward, all that. It seems to me that if the data, that school-based data, is only sent to the governor and the General Assembly, that there's not the local ability to fix or address or have conversations with principals and guidance counselors and whomever else. So I wonder if at the school level, at the 10% of elementary and 25% of secondary schools, whether that should go to the county's Board of Education and or county school superintendents so that they can actually address it. But again, not on the website, not for shaming a school or causing reinforcement of bad reputations of a school that has discipline problems, but let's address it. Let's get the data, and then let's see if it can be fixed.
Back to you, Senator Washington.
So would council, so I agree, would we be amending another section then? It would be this 16, line 16 to 20, add the school system into all those getting the reports so that they'll get what's already in the bill. Yeah, are we able to add that?
So the issue is this: who's reporting this data? I mean, if the county's already doing it to MSDE, why are we having MSDE report it back to the county?
Oh, is it being?
I mean, so.
All right. So the issue. Thank you. So the county is reporting the data, but what the bill sponsor is saying is that there's no way for the public to access this data unless it's put on the website.
Correct. So the discipline data right now that's collected by the department on each of these levels is just reported to the General Assembly and to the governor. The bill, like I said, opens this up and puts this on the department's website. So the question is, where do you want this data to go? Because it's all school level data. If you just want it to go, for example, right now, like where all the existing data goes, the department collects it and then they send it to the governor and General Assembly, I will revise this portion to reflect that. But I want to make sure that is the will of this committee, that this data doesn't get reported along with the other school level data that you did not want reported in subsection F.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So no matter what we do with this data, even if we say it's not put on the website, can we legally keep it from being released once it's out there? Like people request, I guess, public access to this data. Can we really keep it bottled up?
Well, I don't think that's the case here. I mean, it is reported to the governor and the General Assembly, and all those reports to the General Assembly are public documents. It's not bottled up in that way. It's just not laid out in a lovely format on the department's website.
so a organization or individual can get the information from us and put it out there on any website they want.
Yes, they could.
Okay, thanks.
So, committee, I guess I apologize, and I thought that this was a simpler resolution. And Senator, it's not about it getting out. It's just that I have serious, continue to have concerns about the STAR system. You know, I guess there's the balance towards making sure that there's data that's available to, you know, so that we can have action and make good decisions. But then there's also the ongoing additional stigmatizing of systems that don't have the support that they need, that don't have the finance they need. So it's sort of, and so it gets a bad grade, and then it just continues to get the bad grade. And so knowing just how websites and the internet and how data gets misconstrued and misused, I think I wanted to make it slightly, to provide some, not privacy, but some difficulty in just anyone accessing the school level. But Chairman, I think I can't resolve this in a couple of minutes. I don't want to hold up the bill, so, you know.
Let's hold it for tomorrow.
Maybe one question?
Sure.
Okay, quick question, Stacy. Who collects this data? Because you made it sound like the left hand reporting it to itself or something. Is it reported from the school? Does the local Board of Ed and the local superintendent then have that and they're the ones turning it over? Or is it part of that equation that has access but not everyone? Because it's not clear to me who's aggregating the data.
So MSDE is aggregating the data.
Right, but where do they get it from?
From the county boards.
And the county board is getting it from each principal?
So the state board shall establish guidelines that define a state code of discipline for all public schools with standards of conduct. On request, provided assist each with the implementation of the guidelines. Shall adopt to.
Look,
Okay, tomorrow.
it's
Sorry.
through the central office. I mean, they make sure this happens. They'll share it with the local board, and then it gets forwarded to the State Department. And then they aggregate it by county and then by state. So I don't know what the answer is. Let's take it up tomorrow. So as of now, we have 171 to take up. We have 373. We're going to try to deal with the child abuse, some of those issues, get clear on that. We're going to take up 1091 and I guess its counterpart, 829, and we'll pick up some other bills as well. So we're going to stop here. Thank you for your. Oh, okay. You've been handed the amendments, which are actually a compilation from 3 or 4 different senators to try to close the door so this exemption is not abused by developers and people wanting special upzoning or intensified zoning. It was unanimous in the Prince Rudis delegation. Anybody object to adopting the amendments? Seeing no objection, they're adopted. The bill is amended. Does anybody want to be in the negative? Seeing none, that bill will be reported to the floor. Thank you. Take a break. I don't know how late we'll be. We shouldn't be super late. It's not a 11 o'clock night. So hopefully we'll be done in time to watch a little basketball for those who have an interest. Okay, we're adjourned.
Tracy, which bill was that that's being reported? Which bill was being reported tonight?
Oh, 98.